It's so great. Look at this. I love that pose you had just now. Do it again.
What did I do?
You just did with the red hat. Oh my goodness, ladies. And I can kind of touch you now because we've been jabbed. I mean, I shouldn't overdo it, but we're actually hugging each other a little bit now.
Yeah.
Before we even get started, this is really important. If the vaccination is available, go and get it.
If
you have to stand in line, get a day off work, just, go and get it. Because science has shown us in those places where they're properly vaxxed, there's less infection and less mortality.
Yes, and the thing is, the idea with the vaccine really is that it actually stops that whole, cannot prevent you from getting COVID. However, cuts out that whole potential element of you getting really sick.
We are here and we're We Three Queens. I'm Micheline.
I'm Aching.
And I'm Wasonda.
So nice to be back together. And you know what? We took about a month, the month of September, to just say thank you and to renew and refresh, take stock of the 2 years that we've been together doing this so far. With you all, of course, our community. We did flashbacks of all these different things we've discussed, but also, I think, really filled with gratitude, right?
Oh,
yeah.
About just, we're here, a whole year, and more than, nearly half of it has been COVID, and we're still trying to, have these chit-chats that we hope are, interesting, sometimes even entertaining, meaningful, but most important of all, these chit-chats show Africa, show Africans in all our different colors and in all our glory.
Yes.
And so anyway, it is great to be back. It is great to have you here again, Queens.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And I have so many things to talk about today, but I want to talk about something that's come up a lot in the media, among friends, among work colleagues, and that is the imposter syndrome.
Ooh.
Which just sounds like a really nasty illness.
It does, eh?
You have an imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead with a classic definition, and I'd like to hear your take on it, and if you've experienced it now or even before in your careers, right? So if you were to Google imposter syndrome, you would find something like the following, right? This is really about people, and mostly women, feeling inadequate, feeling a sense of like a lack of self-confidence, self-doubting, right? And this is manifested most commonly in the workplace, right? And so I would like to hear, do you feel like you've, doubted yourself? You've, you just have the negative, those gremlins, I call it, in your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, the gremlins.
Those, negative self-talk in the workplace. And of course I'm cheating because I'm asking you so I can give myself time to think about mine. But my answer is certainly yes. So I'd love to hear from each of you, if you've experienced this and how, and just what you think of the concept.
Yeah. So you know what? First of all, I love this conversation because I think it's real, and I feel like there's nothing to be ashamed of if you've experienced self-doubt in the way that imposter syndrome is described. It happens.
Yes.
And I remember, when I think back, like my very first big corporate job, I remember I used to feel it all the time. Because here I was, this little girl from, down the road, Woodley Estate, simple kid.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm in this corporate job, and it's with all these people from all across the world who are my colleagues and my peers. And they seem so worldly and knowledgeable about so much, including about the work we were doing.
Right.
And it used to just come, a wave of imposter syndrome so often. It's almost like it was just lurking there, waiting to pounce every minute, everywhere I turned,
Nasty animal.
Exactly. And you can't really squish it. I mean, those days I couldn't, you know?
Yeah.
And when I think back then, where I used to experience it so often. And then when I think to later years, when I was in a much more senior position, the chief marketing officer position, doing well, you're there because you know your stuff.
Right.
It wouldn't come as often, but it would still
creep in.
rear its head.
Which is what's fascinating, because now you're armed with that, a couple of years of experience, you've completed some great projects at work.
Exactly.
And some tools. And some tools.
Yes, you
right?
know stuff, you know?
But it still wormed its way.
Exactly. And then when I think to now, I almost feel like now I don't experience it really. But the difference is that now I work for myself and I have much more control over who I surround myself with
Right.
and the work that I do. And I feel like part of your environment and the different aspects that constitute that environment sometimes have a lot to do with creating that feeling or triggering that feeling or even, just making it happen.
Right.
Or making it emerge.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know what
The
you guys think.
environment,
Yeah.
The people around you, I'm just asterisking those concepts in my mind for later. I want to flip to you.
Yeah.
Because yes, I've read something that ties nicely with what you're saying there. Nsonda.
No, I absolutely like that. I want to pick up a little bit about the support system, I think, which is really, really important. So for me, I remember so much in my experience when I moved to Switzerland. Here I was, a rural girl from Zambia, blah, blah. But I'd also been given so much wind in my sails and pizzazz by my dad, that I was like just this confident young girl. So there I was, I walked into the Switzerland, like I said before, I hardly spoke French, and I was like, okay, owning this space. And then I had one experience in this meeting where a man asked me, actually, he used to work for the World Bank, and he's like, we have this job in Zambia if you'd be interested, da-da-da, but do you have a master's or a PhD? And I look at him, I said, no, I have University of Zambia degree. And then he goes, no, that would not count. He literally...
Excuse us? A fully fledged, fully accredited university.
Yes.
Why is he pooping
burst
it like
my
it's
bubble,
absolutely nothing?
my balloon. I was like, I went home and I was shaking and I was crying and I was like, okay, am I not good enough and everything? And then I just called up my aunt in London. I was like, oh, this happened today. And she's like, girl, you're so good. You went to a good university. You're smart. There you are in Switzerland, blah, blah. Why are you having such self-doubt? You're so clever. And I was like, oh, okay. I gained up so much confidence that by the time I had my PhD, I walk into spaces where, in fact, I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm overconfident, but I walk into spaces, I own the space.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, if anybody even remotely tries or even picks my idea and tries to amplify it, I call it out.
Yes.
Excuse me, but that is exactly what I said a minute ago.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
And what I meant, in fact, my ad. So I found, but it's taken also a really good support system,
Yes.
as you said, of my she village, my community, my friends, male or female, really telling me, go girl,
Yes.
you're really good. Do not have this self-doubt or
Yeah.
do not. And for me, I'm like, listen guys, I got me a PhD in some complicated subject thing.
Please tell us again.
Yeah, because I never remember what it is. I just know it's something big and clever.
Us about her PhD.
In wetland hydrology, darling.
Wetland hydrology. Thank you very
Why
much.
do you have to measure lots of things in places that has water?
Model.
Isn't that, have I laid it down
Exactly,
nicely? Like just
exactly.
for our level of speed.
So I think I'm quite clever. So I should,
darling. So you should actually just take the throne.
I have earned this room.
But, so what happened to this World Bank guy? Like, did you ever meet him again? Because I would love to see his face now.
Many years ago, I bumped into him actually at a conference, and I was one of the keynote speakers, and I was like, your name sounds familiar. I said, oh, perhaps I should just jog your memory a little. Remember Glon, Switzerland, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And he was like, wow. And I'm like, indeed. Lovely to see you.
Yeah,
And I walked away.
time for this
Mic
one.
drop.
Oh gosh.
Awesome.
Do you know, and it's incredible because you've highlighted like then the World Bank guy and how that slightly affected you versus now, and the Ubuntu, the community, the support system that has nicely cushioned you. And yes, you have your own sense of confidence from what I'm really learning, like from your dad, from your innate self. But this support group is really sort of propelling you forward.
Absolutely.
Right?
But I must also say, of course there are moments where you just like, wow, okay, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, that doesn't sound like, oh.
How about the day when you moderated the guy that was out in space? Did you feel what
that was-
Is that anything
no.
related to Imposter? You were
No,
exhilarated.
I was ready.
We were
I
like
was
that.
ready.
I was
it
ready,
was,
and that was not even part of it. I was like, 100% is it something on another planet?
Yeah.
No, it was so much fun. It goes back to that speaking engagement we talked about, where I look over the heads of people. But then, there was a Secretary General sitting right next to me, and there was Luca Parmitano from space, and I was like, wow. I mean, I was just more shocked that, my God, dude was there flinging the mic, and it was floating. But I was in that space thinking, Musonda, thousands and thousands, in fact, maybe 1 million plus people are watching this live.
Yes.
And there are some little young black girls who are like, wow.
I love it.
Like, there she is, talking and being confident and asking the questions and listening and responding. So for me, when I'm in these spaces, and part of the reason I own them confidently is because I'm imagining myself 25 years younger. And I'm imagining my daughter, who's 9, watching, because my daughter, my children actually are like, that's our mother.
Yes.
That's Musonda Mumba.
Yeah.
And I actually love it that they actually call me by my name. And I'm like, go.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is such an incredible ad, is also this feeling that there are people out there who are just going to be motivated, inspired, by you. And in many ways, that's your responsibility.
No, totally. But we want to hear about you.
Yeah, I'm thinking through all this. I'm like, okay, so I want to touch on the people around you, the things you mentioned. You know what? I have a couple of examples. And they also date to early in my career. So there is something to be said for later on we build confidence for some of the reasons you've given. I remember, I was I think I was mid-20s. But thank God for being tall. I suppose it makes you look older. So I was heading up an NGO in Côte d'Ivoire. I had the best boss ever, Sean. In fact, I hope you can listen into this one. And you know what? I think it was just being 26 and knowing that to be the country director, an international post of this NGO, like all the other people were like 40 something, so that in and of itself just made me feel like an imposter. Also, I speak French fluently. I hadn't had to write proper official memos, flowery French. And I had an assistant, I have the office, you have the whole resources, but I would sometimes just feel like, oh my God. One specific example makes me laugh as I think of it. Unfortunately, there was an unrest in Côte d'Ivoire, and so we're doing a lot of emergency work. And so I had to meet, ministers all the time and just talk about the plan for the NGO coordination, for public health. And I just remember sitting in this minister's office. And thank God they make you sit. By the way, ministers, I don't know what's wrong with governments in Africa. You have to sit in some little office having tea and God knows what for an hour, right? So thank God for that time, because I was literally sweating.
Wow.
And I thought, why? Now my adult self is thinking, why was I sweating? Because I just couldn't believe that I'm the one who's going to communicate the agenda for the organization, be there with all these 40-plus-year-olds, be there with the minister. I had my master's in, which was needed at the time in public health and nutrition. All those things in the job description I had.
You had the specs.
I had a supportive boss.
Yes.
So I think it was just this feeling that this is typically for somebody else who's older, who's more experienced. Now, I don't know what undid that. I think in that time, in those sort of 3-4 years, it's, maybe just different successes, projects actually working, but most of the time I would just feel like a little bit like, oh my God, is this really me?
Yeah.
So that was one. And very quickly, a second one, which wasn't too long ago, I now realize what was going on and I can understand the syndrome. So I'm sitting in an office ready to have this meeting in Spanish. I speak Spanish. And a colleague comes in and so the client is Bolivian, the client speaks Spanish. The colleague comes in and says, oh, you know what, can we just have this meeting in English for Micheline?
Oh, wow.
Were they saying it in a condescending way, or were they being genuinely
unaware?
The person knows that I speak Spanish.
Oh.
So,
please.
yes. And so I can now think about it as, this person
It's a microaggression, right?
It's a microaggression.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's one of those microaggressions at work. And I'll link it to people often used to ask me in Latin America, they'd say, oh, so, you know, you manage the Africa team. And I'd say, no, I'm in Latin America, you know. And what it is that you are not supposed to be there.
Exactly.
This is one
According
of the
to them.
reasons
Yeah.
for imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, in a corporate construct.
Yeah.
Right? When you are not supposed to be there as a woman, right? And that's why it affects us disproportionately.
Yeah.
Or as a minority woman.
Yeah.
Or as another. We talk about different identities, sexual identities. We talk about youth.
Yeah.
Then those little microaggressions are the gremlins in your mind.
Oh, those gremlins are awful.
You are so right.
Isn't
I
that
remember
Yes.
I had a colleague. Actually, I was the only black person in that particular group of senior people. And every time I stood up to speak, he would snigger. But not snigger with just his face, where he actually makes a sound.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
I will
Yes,
actually
I
never
remember
forgive
that.
my boss for always letting it continue.
Yes.
Because he always used to do that. And now that we talk about microaggressions, I realize
one.
it was such an obvious one. And I don't know why I didn't just confront him very, very vocally
Because you're not ready.
and put him on the spot. I wasn't ready then. Because
Yeah.
if it happened now, I'm such a different person today.
Yeah.
See?
But then I felt so outnumbered, and the more he did it, the more it kind of broke me.
Yes.
And really, the imposter syndrome, if it was a monster, it just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Because it was allowed to continue. And to
Yeah.
be honest, I never felt protected.
Yeah.
HR never protected me.
Because the gremlin is actually
The
taking
CEO never
over you,
protected me.
which is actually
Yes.
terrible.
The gremlin
Absolutely.
takes over,
Yeah.
you know. and you don't have
Absolutely.
the inner-
You lose the courage and the strength
Yes.
somehow.
I mean,
it shakes
I should
your.
have said to this
Yeah.
person, you know, oh, hi, oh, you've come to the meeting, great. Sería mejor de continuar esta reunión en español, por favor. Entonces, vamos a empezar ahora.
Por favor, gracias.
Yes, honey.
Thank you very much, but it would be fine to continue this in Spanish. Because,
Yeah.
you know, let's just get started.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do today. And it's so interesting that we come, hopefully, into this space of confidence.
Yeah.
Space of correcting any of those,
Yeah.
you know, sort of horrendous,
Any of the
you know,
bullshit.
Yes.
just egregious
Yeah.
violations.
Yeah.
of-
Absolutely.
And
Now you
cut
just nip it in the bud.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we can do that,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
so I think that, honestly, much as it continues, I was reading this article in the HBR, I think Musonda sent it to me, the Harvard Business Review, and that's where this woman sort of talked about how imposter syndrome was named after a 1970-something study, and lots of super qualified, right, super capable women
Yeah.
were found to be disproportionately affected because of these microaggressions,
Exactly.
because of this construct that you were not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which,
Right.
which is a big one till today, even as we live in a global village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to correct this, and this is what I wanted to come back to,
Yeah.
the people around you.
Yeah.
You work alone and you basically can decide who's going to be on the team of consultants and so on.
Yeah.
You've also got, you know, hiring power. You know, I work across diverse teams. If we can push, you know, diversity, basically, we're talking about inclusion and belonging, really.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
A very sort of mixed set of people, such that there is no one majority.
Exactly.
Right? And
Yeah.
so that's something that we can do. We
Yeah.
can also correct. That boss of yours should have corrected when
Yeah.
people were, you know, snickering. Or
Yeah,
whatever they
when
were doing,
the
you know?
German colleague was sniggering.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And honestly, I was looking at our lovely fashion entrepreneur in Kenya here, Njoki, so the brand Icon.
Yeah.
I was on her IG page some time ago, and I know she did a radio show and she talked about it as well. I know she speaks a lot to like the pre-millennials, and I just thought, oh no, if people are still feeling it, I hope that this conversation has just helped to at least, I think for me it's to break it down, see what's
And trigger
happening.
something, trigger a change.
Yes.
Reflection and just the change.
And also knowing that you're not alone in
Yes.
feeling this.
Yeah.
And so you can talk to people about it. I love what you've said around surrounding yourselves with the
Yes.
right people
Yes.
that support you and that are your cheerleaders.
Yes.
But talk to people about it as well. You know, get mentored on it, or talk to older women or older men, but mostly older women, because we tend to deal we experience it disproportionately, as you've said.
Exactly.
But talk to someone, because they can talk you and walk you through different ways that you can deal. You know?
But I also want to say, for those of you who actually create these spaces that are making women or men, even for that matter, feel that imposter syndrome, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
I like it. I like it. It's time to just come correct. Absolutely stop it.
Yeah.
And for, we were saying, for those of us who feel it, let's not even call it imposter syndrome. Sounds like a nasty, dirty little disease. Doesn't it? Just know that really what it is. They probably shouldn't have named it something so drastic sounding, but it's really feeling slight self-doubt. I like to say the gremlins in my head, so I can talk to them. So I'm like, okay, little gremlin, stop.
Yeah.
Little gremlin, you have your PhD, Masonda.
Yeah.
Little gremlin, you have your, different masters and 20 years and all of that. So I talk to the gremlins until they scatter away, So, all right, people. Do you know what? Before we go, do you just, it says October. And I would love it if any of you have just one breast cancer thing to say, because that's so important.
It's Breast Cancer Month. Please get checked. Have your mammogram. Get yourself checked. So many women out there are suffering simply because I was busy, I didn't have the time. Make the time and do it. Absolutely. For the sake of you and those people that love you dearly.
If you're in Kenya, if you're in Nairobi, all the hospitals have this major campaign over the course of the month of October, and the tests are heavily discounted. So go get tested. Go get tested. It's hugely discounted. I think it's 50% off the usual price, or 60% off the usual price. All the hospitals do it. I know MP Shah have a really good program, including a breast specialist that you can see after with your tests. I think it's at no additional cost. It's part of the package. So get tested, guys.
Absolutely.
Ladies.
And I know those discounts go beyond. I was talking to friends in Rwanda. I was seeing it in New York. So they go beyond Kenya. I would only add, you've said it both so well, men, young men or older men, why don't you take a woman on a date, stop by the clinic first? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, this is for all of us together. So please take this very seriously. Early detection is everything as well. Well, people, it is a wrap. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us once again.
And subscribe.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.